Hello, everybody. Happy Monday afternoon. Happy Victory Monday. Seahawks are 1-0. Pretty good Sunday of football for Seahawks fans. Cowboys let us down last night, but all in all, successful Sunday. On to the next Sunday. So it's Monday afternoon, and I thought I'd go ahead and shoot a quick video about one of my favorite things to do the day after a Seahawks game, and that is taking a look at the snap count and seeing if there's anything that we can learn. So on screen here next to me, we have the snap count from yesterday's game, and I just like to look at these numbers and see if there's anything we can learn, if there's any trends that we have that I like, if there's anything that I don't like. Thought I'd go ahead and shoot a video on it. So let's take a look at these snap counts and see what we can learn, if anything. So you look at the top, you can see 4 of the 5 offensive linemen and Russell Wilson played every snap. No surprises there. Metcalf and Lockett played almost every snap. It is a little interesting that Metcalf played more snaps than Lockett. I'm assuming that there were some one receiver sets and Metcalf was out there. So already we can see Metcalf kind of supplanting Lockett as the #1 receiver and probably going to be the most dangerous receiver we have on the team. I don't know if he's going to have the most production, but that's kind of interesting to me that Metcalf beat Lockett out in total snaps. Now, maybe the most interesting and maybe concerning thing about this offense in terms of the snap count for me, I want to take a look at this real quick. Mike Upati only played 49 snaps, 79% of the snaps, and every snap he missed went to Jordan Simmons, who played 13 snaps or 21%. So I thought that Upati got hurt, and that's a fair assumption to have with Mike Upati gets hurt all the time, but supposedly this was just part of the rotation. Apparently we have a planned rotation at guard, and Simmons just came in for a few snaps a few times throughout the game. And if you combine that with the fact that Mike Upati didn't look very good, I'm a little concerned about that because Upati supposedly looked really good in camp, and supposedly had that position locked down, but we are giving him some snaps off. He is an older guy. I appreciate it on that level, but I do wonder if we feel like Upati's game is dropping off and we're trying to slowly ease him out of the starting lineup. It's also pretty interesting that Jordan Simmons is apparently the next man up because Jordan Simmons hasn't played meaningful football for a long time now until yesterday, and the reviews of his performance a couple years ago was mixed. He seemed very good in the run game and weak in the pass game. So we're going to keep an eye on that going forward. That's the #1 thing that I'm questioning from this snap chart. But my favorite thing and the most maybe surprising thing is what we did with our receivers, running backs, and tight ends overall, because a big surprise here to me was David Moore had more snaps than Chris Carson. Our #3 receiver had more snaps than our #1 running back. Chris Carson only had 28 snaps where he was on the field yesterday in Atlanta, and this is a breath of fresh air to me. Last year, Chris Carson averaged close to 50 snaps a game. That is way too much for a running back, especially one who plays like Chris Carson. He was on the field way too much, and when you really look at that, it's not a big surprise he broke down by the end of the season and wasn't even able to play at the end. 50 snaps a game for a running back who plays like Chris Carson is just asking for trouble. So for us to, in this first game, cut that snap count down to 28, less than half the snaps, is big. And you can see where the other snaps went too. Carlos Hyde, who played a pretty decent game, 21 snaps, 34% of them. And then Travis Homer picked up 13. And, Homer, he didn't really do much with the action that he got. I wasn't too impressed with him. It would not surprise me if these snaps went to DJ Dallas when DJ Dallas gets activated. But the point is, we are finally taking it easy with Chris Carson, and we're going to have an opportunity for him to actually be somewhat fresh at the end of the season. We saw the same thing with the tight end spread. We see here Greg Olson was on the field for 66% of his snaps, Disley 40%, Hollister got his 18%. There's a nice rotation going on with these players. And unlike the rotation we might be having with Upati, which kind of makes me concerned that maybe we don't really think Upati has it anymore and we're trying to slowly ease him out of the offense. Maybe, just maybe, we're actually going to have some fresh players at the end of the season. Maybe Carson's only going to be playing 30 snaps a game. Maybe we're going to have a fleet of ready-to-go running backs by the end of the season, because as much as I don't really value running backs all that much, I understand that I would rather have Chris Carson out there than pulling Marshawn Lynch off the retirement couch to come in and try to play for us. There is a difference between having Chris Carson and having to go to Marshawn Lynch and Travis Homer as your featured back. So this rotation looks nice to me. We have some real injury concerns and some age concerns with our tight ends and running backs. So to see this rotation is really sweet to me. Other minor notes: Freddie Swain, 16 snaps, 26% of the snaps. Surprisingly high for the rookie. I was not expecting that much from him. He made a play out there too today, so Freddie did good. He might end up being the rookie who contributes the most to this team outside of Damian Lewis, for all we know. And other than that, everything on offense is pretty normal. So let's move to the defense real quick. Everything at the top of the defense is as you would expect. Bobby and Jamal played every snap. Shaquille Griffin was on the field for every snap except one. Quandre Diggs every snap except two. Totally normal stuff. There is some good stuff and some bad stuff on the defense that I was able to glean from the snap count. So let's jump over here and take a look at the rest of the defense. So the stuff that I liked from the defense: number one, KJ Wright, 56% of the snaps. He was only on the field for 44 snaps. Now, you may remember last year KJ was on the field for almost 1,000 total snaps. That's way too high for a player of his age and his now limited skill set. So here we shaved back his snaps significantly. If he continues to play 44 per game, that puts him more in the realm of 700 snaps, which would be a great way for him to preserve himself and maybe be more effective on the snaps that he does get. So the fact that KJ Wright went from a guy who was on the field 95% of the time last year to a guy who was on the field 55% of the time, I love that. Poona Ford took his snaps up a little bit. He was on the field about 48, 47% of the snaps last year. Yesterday, we saw him on the field slightly more than 50%. So he's continuing to get a few more snaps. He was able to stay on the field a good amount yesterday. More than half the snaps for a nose tackle is nice. Other thing that I liked: Marquise Blair. Not that he played a great game, I don't think. I don't think Marquise Blair played great, but on the field a lot. 70% of the snaps as our nickel cornerback. We have moved away from that base defense junk last year, and I am loving it. 55 snaps. That is a lot of snaps for a cornerback that is in a third cornerback that is in line with what you would expect when you're playing a team like the Falcons. So we have finally, seemingly, hopefully for good, moved away from that base defense junk. All right. So I did like some of the stuff we saw on the defense. One thing that I also thought was interesting, not exactly concerning, but interesting: Quentin Dunbar was on the field for 86% of the snaps, but he did lose some snaps to Trey Flowers. Trey Flowers picked up 13% of the snaps. So basically, there were a handful of plays where we pulled out Dunbar and put in Flowers. I'm not concerned about it. Dunbar did not play well. It was his first game after the offseason from HE double hockey sticks. But it is interesting that Flowers picked up a few snaps. I think every snap Flowers got was as a second cornerback replacing Dunbar. So we'll see if those snaps go away as the season goes on. But here is my concern. Here is what I saw from this snap chart that I really didn't like, and it's going to fuel what I'm looking for this week from this team, because now that we are past week one, contracts are now non-guaranteed. Anybody who gets signed this week, next week, whole rest of the season, will have their contract fully non-guaranteed. That's probably what a lot of these players were waiting for. And if I take a look at the snap count, I see some things that need to be cleaned up. Benson Mayowa played 90% of the snaps. That is way too high. And Benson Mayowa is a good player. He played a good game. I like him. Benson Mayowa should not be playing 90% of the snaps. That's a problem, especially at his advanced age. 90% of the snaps is a little too high. Bruce Irvin, 85% of the snaps. Now, I don't know how many of these snaps came as a linebacker and how many of these snaps came as an end. If he's on the field as a linebacker about 35% of the time, and the rest of the time he's as an end, this number's not so bad. But if he's on the field this much as an end a vast majority of the time, to me, he's going to get worn out. To me, he's not going to be effective at the end of the games. He might not be as effective at the end of the season. So I have my eye on that. This number is a little too high for a player of Bruce Irvin's age, in my estimation. And I can see why this might have happened to a certain extent. There are some solutions on the roster. LJ Collier only played 38% of the snaps. That number could bump up a few percentage points just because he gains experience and some stamina as the season goes on. Rasheem Green only played 38% of the snaps. He got hurt. He will probably play more snaps in future games if he doesn't get hurt. If he did not leave the game with that injury for a few plays, this number would have been higher, and the Mayowa and Irvin numbers probably would have been a little lower. But this number needs to come way up. I expect 45 to 50 snaps a game from Rasheem Green this year. And Demontre Moore, he just got signed. I didn't expect him to play a big chunk of the game today. 25% is probably a pretty reasonable expectation. This number can come up. If Demontre Moore plays well and we feel like we need more snaps from him, this number can come up. However, there is an issue with this snap chart that I see that cannot be fixed with anything on this roster, and that is right here, Jarran Reed, 67 snaps on defense at tackle, 85% of the snaps. I like Jarran Reed, but he's not Aaron Donald, he's not Fletcher Cox, and even those guys you might not want on the field this much. 85% for a defensive tackle, 67 snaps. That strikes me as being alarmingly high. And if you look at Poona Ford, I think he's pretty close to capped out. I don't want him on the field any more than about 53% of the snaps. Brian Monet was on the field for about less than 20% of the snaps. This seems about right for a player of his caliber. So what I'm trying to get at is we need one more body in the trenches. We need one more defensive tackle. If it's Marcel Darius, if it's Snacks, if it's one of our practice squad guys, I don't even need the guy to be that great of a player. I just need somebody who can absorb 15, maybe 20 snaps a game at tackle and not be a complete trash can. So this number right here is the one thing from this defense that really kind of caught my eye as being, we need to get Jarran Reed a little more rest. We probably faced a team out there yesterday that passed the ball more than any team we will play this year. I will say that. The Falcons dropped back to pass, I think, on 57 meaningful plays yesterday. They had 54 pass attempts, they had 2 sacks, and they had 1 intentional grounding. So that's 57. Doubtful we will play other teams that pass the ball this much. So some of these numbers will come down. Marquise Blair may not play as much. KJ Wright might play a little more. Reed could expect to play a little bit less, as is Mayowa, just because teams are going to be running the ball more. LJ Collier could get on the field more just because of that. But I feel like we need one more body. So it's week 2. Contracts are fully non-guaranteed. Go bring me somebody who can take up 15 to 20 snaps. Other than that, Jordan Brooks got on the field for 7 snaps, which is, good for him, good for the rookie. He needs a little bit of blow. So he got 7 plays, and I think he made a tackle. The discouraging thing from the very bottom of this snap chart would be B.J. Finney got 6 snaps all on special teams. And that's a problem to me because you would think that he would be the guy who comes in to blow Mike Upati, not Jordan Simmons. So the fact that Finney can't even do that tells me he is really struggling. But all in all, some good stuff here. Oh, Delano Hill, 37% of the snaps. I don't know if I like it or not, but I am intrigued by it. We're going to keep an eye on that going forward. We're going to see if we're doing these 3 safety sets, if we're going, DB heavy going forward. But this is a very interesting number to me right here. 37% for Delano Hill. Let's see if it keeps up. All right. Peace out, go Hawks. See you guys tomorrow with more videos, but just wanted to give my thoughts on the snap count from Sunday afternoon.